If you can lift this gold bar, it's yours. This is just one of many impossible challenges included in this video, starting with the easiest of them all, the money booth. Arguably, one of the quickest ways to score yourself handfuls of cash. But if you don't have your technique down pat, you could end up swiping at thin air and walking away with nothing more than spare change. You could aim for the wads of bills that accumulate in the corners, or you could cheat by standing on the jackpot prize before the machine even starts up. But it turns out, the best tactic is to just open your arms and let the cash come to you.
Oh my gosh.
And while this might be the easiest one on here, this next one is much harder than it looks. Put a dumbbell in front of any guy, and we just can't help ourselves. It's like we're hardwired to lift things just to prove that we can. So when you set up a 330-pound golden dumbbell and offer $100 to anyone who can lift it one-handed, you get a line of bros ready to have their egos hurt. While everyone's initially confident, it becomes instantly obvious and even embarrassing when no one can lift the mammoth dumbbell. Even bodybuilders and self-proclaimed strongmen fail one after the other. It isn't so much the 330-pound weight, it's a matter of having the right grip and superhuman wrist strength to match. So it's no surprise that the only man capable was this guy. Speaking of superhuman wrist strength, you wouldn't think that hanging from a horizontal bar for 100 seconds would be that hard, but it's certainly difficult enough to offer $100 to anyone who can pull it off. The majority of people start off strong, but after a while, the lactic acid starts to set in and the arms begin to burn. Sweat starts to make your palms slippery, and before you know it, you're dropping off with just seconds to go.
6, 5, 4.
Seriously, the amount of people that fall off within the last few seconds is crazy. Now, there's a lot of people that'll tell you that this is a carnival scam and that the bar starts to rotate with just seconds to go. But people do win this challenge, and some make it look embarrassingly easy. But if you think winning $100 for 100 seconds seems too easy to be true, wait till you see what's in store at the end of the video. But until then, how's your balance? Most people can stay upright on a bicycle, no problem. But what if you had to ride on top of a 5-inch plank in order to stay dry? The Cycle Plank Challenge in Nepal separates the cyclist from those with terrible balance. If you get the wobbles, it's game over. And most contestants end up face first in the river. But every now and then, you get a two-wheel pro, a cycling maestro that makes it look easy. But what if the punishment for failing a challenge was much scarier than just getting wet? Ah, the Gap Bridge. A nightmare scenario for anyone with even a mild fear of heights. It's not the actual distance between the bridge's planks that's the problem. It's looking down at the sheer drop right beneath you. For some, it's being so scared that your legs turn to jelly. For others, they just can't take one more step and have to turn back for safety. But I think we can all agree that the missing final plank looks pretty painful. The trick with this challenge is balance, and of course, balls of steel to make it to the end. And while high-altitude parkour might be the adrenaline rush for some people, this next challenge has to be seen to be believed. Everyone loves bees in theory, but some people would rather enjoy them safely, from a distance. And that's why the niche field of competitive bee beards is such a weird spectacle. Contestants line up to have thousands of bees dumped on them in the hopes of having the biggest and most elaborate bee beards form on their faces. If you're a little squeamish about creepy crawlies, this might not be the challenge for you, even if the first place prize is $500. You should probably stick to something like the swinging bridge. This right here is the ultimate test of balance and weight distribution. Swinging violently from side to side, participants flock to test their skills without getting wet. Most people adopt a wide-legged stance and try to lean with the bridge as it sways from side to side. But there are always a few who can't change their center of gravity and fall off almost immediately. But then there are the show-offs, the ones who play life on easy mode. They figured out a way to turn this challenge into a dance routine. But this isn't the only challenge that has you holding on for dear life. Sometimes you just gotta grab life by the horns. If you aren't at least a cowboy or wrestling bears for a living, there's a good chance you'll end up like 95% of contestants, on your back or slammed against the inflatable barrier. But what happens if they replace a robot bull with a real one? Ever play real-life chicken with an angry bull? Pro tip, it's probably not the safest pastime in the world. But here's a cool fact about bulls you should probably know if you're heading to a farm anytime soon. Bulls have a vision system that's highly dependent on movement. They don't hate the color red, they hate it when people wave things at them. So in this challenge, all the participants are asked to stand super still before a bull's released into the arena. If they don't move, the bull should, in theory, ignore them and simply run around them. The catch is, if they do move, they become target number 1. From standing completely still to having to move super fast, this challenge has the need for speed. Disappearing platforms are hardly a new concept. They've been stressing gamers out for decades. But this real-life version of your favorite side-scroller requires some actual athletic ability in order to complete successfully. If you don't have the speed to move to the next platform fast enough, you'll end up going for an early morning bath. And while walking on water definitely might not be a new concept, it's cool that us mortals can now do it too. From one slippery situation to another, this next one is close to impossible. The premise is super simple. Run at full speed up this pole and grab the flag perched at the very end. The only catch, it's been covered in slippery grease. What looks like a fairly easy task is made all that more difficult when you can't get your footing to stick. Contestant after contestant met the cool Turkish waters, as no one seemed to be able to tame the slippery totem. Eventually, one man demonstrated to the rest of the crowd exactly how it can be done. Maybe Red Bull gave him wings. But while this challenge is all about speed and action, this next one requires you to do absolutely nothing at all. These cadets have to pass one final challenge before moving on to the next level of their training. To pass this, there's one rule and one rule only. Don't look back. The catch is, no matter how loud the tank is, no matter how much hot air you feel in the back of your neck, you are not allowed to turn around. If those cadets haven't already soiled their pants, they're about to do so in this next one. There's one challenge that every Marine has nightmares about: the infamous mud run. Forced to drop to their stomachs and crawl through a filthy, cold, and wet obstacle course. There's nothing glamorous about this training tradition, with mud that extends up to 4 feet deep. Each movement is an exhausting toil both on the mind and body. And to make things worse, the mud run is a team challenge, meaning that if anyone collapses due to exhaustion, the entire team has to circle back and retrieve their fallen man. And while nobody wants to be that person, I'm pretty sure being a participant in this next one is much worse. Not every competition is centered around a cash prize. Sometimes contestants are after a different kind of cheddar, like in the annual cheese rolling contest, a festival of dairy and downright stupidity. The contest begins with an official rolling of a specially chosen wheel of cheese down a steep hill. After that, all bets are off. Hundreds of people launch themselves down the hill after the cheese, and it's hard to find anyone who can manage to stay upright. You've got fails, flips, and tumbles galore, and that's just in the first 5 seconds. To date, no one's been able to catch the fast-flying wheel, which has been clocked in at an eye-watering 70 miles an hour downhill. This doesn't stop the contest from crowning a winner each year for the first person to the bottom. You'd be amazed at how many times the winner was unconscious by the time they reached the finish line. Do you think you could do better than a cockroach? These Japanese scientists wanted to make sure that their extra sticky cockroach glue could work on absolutely anything. So they turned their lab experiment into a real-life competition. To come out on top, all you need to do is make it across this oversized glue trap without getting stuck. Judging by contestant number 1, scientists should stick to theory. The track star made it a little further, but still ended up completely immobilized. The true disappointment belonged to this sumo wrestler, who found himself stuck belly first. Okay, so how about a challenge that doesn't leave you feeling like a dropped lollipop on a carpet? This competition is outstanding. No, literally. Contestants have to stand on these podiums for as long as they can, outlasting only each other to claim a major prize. Oh, but there's a twist. Every few hours, the contestants are blasted by a different type of extreme weather event, from frigid cold snow to torrential rain, followed by an intense heat wave. If standing still without a break wasn't torture enough, this put the icing on the cake. After about 12 hours, the contestants start dropping like flies, one by one until the last two remain. In the end, after a brutal 22 hours, a contestant gracefully conceded to crown the grittiest survivor. But for the ultimate prize, who could resist a challenge like this? Who wouldn't want a free gold bar? All you have to do is reach in there and grab it. Seems easy enough, right? Well, thanks to an awkwardly placed hole and the surprising 20 kg weight of the gold bar, this challenge is simply too hard for most people. You either need super thin forearms or the wrist strength of the Incredible Hulk in order to pull it off. That's not to say it can't be done. It definitely can and has been. The only catch is, the bullion they give you as a prize is much smaller. Totally worth it though. The final challenge was to make it this far in the video. If you're here, you may as well hit that like and subscribe button on your way out. See ya!